I am Jancis. I'm a clinical psychologist. I have lived in Europe, in Asia, and on the east and west coasts of the US. I have worked in mental hospitals, in the inner city clinics, and in courts. I have come from this experience, combined with, for many years, activism while I was doing my clinical work, but always it seemed very divorced from it. I could never quite make the connections between what I was doing in the clinic and what I was doing to protest nuclear war or some of those other issues of the 90s and 80s. But I came to see that the most striking thing about human suffering and human beings, it seemed to me, was the extraordinary levels of resilience, of sacrifice, of caring, and of creativity in virtually every society, and in most people in most societies. At the same time, the extraordinary levels of extreme cruelty, often existing within blocks of where any of us live and work, of extreme self-interest and of destructiveness. The two seem to me to be always together and always part of the human story. I have also noticed the very close-knit connections between in any human suffering, between the inner psychological particularities of a person and the social structures, the cultural values, and the chance histories that that person has lived through. What has been most interesting to me, or what has been extremely interesting to me, is that it is so hard to keep a focus on both the positive and negative aspects of the human condition and on the social and psychological pieces of both negative and positive social change. When I came to Psychologists for Social Responsibility, it was a great relief after some of the many peace organizations I had been in and many clinical situations I had been in where it seemed so hard to put together the political and the clinical. In Psychologists for Social Responsibility, the very mission is to apply psychological knowledge to the things that are going wrong in the world, and to see that they are not going wrong simply because of the inner world or simply because of the social structure. Both things are very closely involved, and it is our job to try to unravel them and to find where we can work the best to fight against what is going wrong and for a social setting and a collection of education and various other elements in which we can hope for more things to go right. So this was why I find the Psychologists for Social Responsibility was a great place for me to be. I think that many of you, possibly reading this, looking at this website, might find yourself also able to join us in this. If you're not a member now, I would hope that you would join us, consider joining and becoming a member. Look around this website and you'll find many ways in which you can get involved. If you are a member now, please find the place that you would most like to put your energies and your psychological knowledge together with some of the things both that are going wrong and that are working for going right in the world. In this current year, we have been focusing on 4 particular issues. One is the issue of torture, where very shamefully the US has been engaging in torture and abuse. I would not say this is a new thing, but it is a thing that has become particularly part of policy in the last few years, and particularly of the foreign detainees, though the state of our domestic prisons are far from good. And that even more shamefully from our particular professional point of view, psychologists have been closely involved in designing these abuses and these tortures. Psychologists for Social Responsibility, along with many other groups, have been working very hard against the policy and against the involvement of psychologists in the policy. Another thing we have been doing this year is to work on the issue of peace building, after violence, whether it's in the domestic inner cities, whether it's within families, whether it's between gangs, or whether it's between community violence in any part of the world. There is a huge job to do in repairing the structures and in starting again in a new and very devastated and impoverished world that happens when communities have been at war with each other. People around the world, both psychologists and anthropologists and healers of various kinds, have a lot of knowledge about some of the things that make peace building possible. They do not get taught as a rule for psychologists or for social workers in the US, and we need to bring this knowledge and this teaching to them. This is a major focus of Psychologists for Social Responsibility at this time. We are also working on the new issue of the psychology of the environment, and what changes may need to be made for people to adapt if we are to preserve our resources for the future. And fourthly, what we have always been doing is peace education, which involves schools, which involves universities, which involves any places, which involves members of Congress and the congressional offices to a large extent. And we are working on educating people on the psychological dimensions and the social dimensions of violence and the inequalities of our nation. We hope that you can join us in this. If you should be looking at this site from overseas, from international perspective, we would like to tell you about the international network that is being developed at Psychologists for Social Responsibility in association with our colleagues in Finland and Germany and Brazil and Australia. And we hope to gather psychological organizations that are interested in peace and justice from around the whole world. So please let us know. You'll find the places on the website where you can let us know these things. Please let us know if you're an international group, if you're an international person who would like to join us, and if you are from anywhere that you'd like to become a member or become more involved with us. I hope you will. Thank you.